So I am here at the memorial on JBLM. Chad's name is right up there. I can't get it in the shot at the same time just because it's way up there. So how I was notified was he died on February 17th, 2008. During that time we were living with my parents. We were trying to save money. We knew Rissa was on her way, saving money, trying to pay off like vehicle bills, debts and everything, and that was the best way since my parents did live close. So we were living there, and Rissa was 4 months old at the time. She was actually, the night before, I went out to dinner with one of the other wives from the unit, and I just wasn't feeling good. And it was my first time bringing Rissa out to dinner, and I just wasn't feeling good. And now looking back, I think that I knew in my gut something was wrong, because I normally don't get that way. But we got home from dinner that night, went to bed. Rissa was up every few hours, being a 4-month-old, for feedings and everything, and she ended up sleeping in my bed. I remember random little details like that. But we were living with my parents, and at about 6 o'clock in the morning, there was a knock at my door. Or knock at my parents' door. I didn't hear it, I slept through it, and actually my dad heard it. And he went up and answered the door. And my dad's ex-army, he's an army veteran. And I'm sure he knew when he opened that door what it meant. I don't know what happened, but he came up and got me. He woke me up and he said, there's people at the door to see you. And I'm, you know, first haze of waking up, I'm like, what? Who's here, you know? It didn't cross my mind until I opened the front door and there was the chaplain, and I believe it was an officer. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to rank, but there was the 2 soldiers in their class 8s standing there, and I knew instantly. It's just like you see in movies. Those 2 soldiers walking up to your door. I remember opening the door, trying to slam it shut because this had to have been a dream. This wasn't supposed to happen to me. This wasn't supposed to be my life. I tried to slam it shut, but like I lost all strength and I just fell to the floor and started falling. Because they didn't even have to say anything. You just know that's never good news. Yeah. I don't remember much. I remember my mom woke up then and she was there, and I'm very thankful that I had my parents there to be there for me, because I had no strength. The next thing I remember, we were sitting in my parents' living room, and I'm like, oh my god, I need to check on Carl. I need to make sure, because I knew they told me someone else had died in the same mission. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, the wife that I was out to dinner with the night before, I need to check on her and make sure it was him. So I called her and I'm like, please tell me you've heard from Carl. Please tell me, you know, please let me know Carl's alright. And she's like, what, you know, I haven't heard anything, but I'm coming right over. And she came right over to be there. Later that day I found out who the other soldier was, and he was a good friend of Chad, actually. Him and his wife were the second couple to get married in the barracks, and we actually went on our little makeshift honeymoon up to her parents' cabin up here. So that was really hard. I really don't remember much more from that time. They say, well, in all my psychology books, they say your brain will purposely block out memories to protect itself. It's like a defense mechanism. And I remember bits and pieces from up until like we got back from his funeral. I remember the Army, I knew he wanted to be buried in Iowa. So the Army flew us out to Iowa, and that's where they flew his body into after it was done being cleaned up and everything at Dover. And I remember sitting at my in-laws' island trying to pick out caskets and thinking, what am I doing? I don't know caskets. I didn't even know. I'm not sure what it's called, but you have a casket and then they put you in like a concrete box, and I didn't even know that. I was so young and naive and making these decisions after just finding out your husband has been killed. I don't think anything can prepare you for that. I remember sitting there doing that, and then they flew his body into the small little airport close by, and I remember the plane coming in. I remember them pulling the plane in. I just fell to the floor again and started bawling. And then all the soldiers making his body off the plane. They did it with such great honor, but it was really hard to think my husband was in there. I remember I'd been working with the funeral home in Iowa, and I remember walking up as they were putting his casket into the back of the car, and I'm like, oh my god, my husband's probably so cold. You gotta turn the heater on. I don't want my husband to be cold. I was honestly, at that point in time, I wanted to curl up in the casket and die with him, just to hold him. The next things I remember are from the funeral. I remember hearing other people talking and hearing that the Westboro Baptist Church was there in town protesting my husband's funeral, and I wanted to kill them. I did. How can you say my husband died because God hates us? I'm still very angry at that church, and I don't think what their protests and everything are accomplishing anything. I remember that. And then I remember at the funeral, there's bugs. I remember them at the funeral handing me the folded up flag. And they say it just like in the movies, on behalf of a grateful nation. And I lost it at the funeral. It's the toughest year of my life. Being 22, burying my husband. It's made me stronger, but it's been tough. So I'm gonna end this here. I hope that answered some of the questions and kind of gave some insight into what I've been through. As you can see, even almost 8 years later, talking about some things and everything, those emotions are still there and still very raw. I love my husband, and he will remain my husband. You know, he may be dead, but I still love him. That will never change. Hey everyone, so just a side note on the video. You did see a lot of raw emotions. I let my heart out to you guys. But I also, for families who are going through a loss, do know it does get easier. It may not look like it from that video, but back during the first, well, it hit me a year later after he died that he really wasn't coming home. So that second year was the roughest, and there was more days than not that I would break down crying, like in that video. Now, almost 8 years later, I have my bad days. I have triggers, you know, certain songs that bring me back to that moment, that remind me of things. For the longest time, I was not able to put butter on bread without breaking down crying, because Chad didn't like butter on his bread, on his toast. So as soon as that toaster would pop up and I'd go to put some butter on it, I would start crying. But things do get easier. They do get better. You are going to have more better days than not so better. Just remember to take care of yourself and allow your time to cry, to grieve, to process. There is no timeline. There is no set way to grieve. Grieve in your own way, just do it safe and healthy, and remember to reach out if you do need help. I'm always here for you. Our email address is thiswidowslife@gmail.com. You can always leave a comment. Reach out if you need help. So, we love you guys, and we want to help you. We want to help you as much as possible.